Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Late Reviews. I've got Nolan,
Hey,
Kyle,
How we doing?
Captain America,
Captain here.
and Lex. We're really stepping up our game now. We got Captain America's got the Last of Us background. We're looking professional. Tonight's episode was pretty interesting. I like that they're not spending too much downtime with the show. They're just keeping it pushing. I didn't even say what we're doing. This is Last of Us. This is Last of Us we're doing. But yeah, they're keeping the show pushing. A little 3-month time jump after the events of the last episode, which was good. I feel like we didn't need to see all that recovery and stuff. You guys have any initial thoughts from that?
They got Ellie back in the hospital. I thought that was kind of weird. How long they had kept her there, because she was just bitching about being there for so long. So I was surprised that they actually kept her that long.
She had broken ribs.
Yeah, I totally get that.
And
but
trauma.
you're supposed to be one of those fight through the pain type of people. I thought she would have been back and running around the town pretty quick.
That's fair. I guess I don't know what the recovery for broken ribs looks like, but that makes sense.
It's probably a lot worse in that scenario too.
Yeah, they don't have the injections they give football players just to go out and play through that shit.
Do we know how many people know that she's immune at this point?
Tommy.
Like, was it just Joel?
Tommy.
So nobody knows? Tommy. That's
Tommy
it.
knows.
Okay.
Yep.
I thought that was it. I wasn't 100%. So I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. So, Ellie gets out of the hospital, goes home. Dina comes over, tells her that she actually knows who killed Joel, tells them about the WLF, Wolf, which stands for, is it Western Liberation Front? Toph?
I believe that was
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I was just thinking it's crazy that if Eugene, this magical Eugene person that we keep hearing about, just hadn't, I feel like Eugene is like fucking like Tinkerbell. Like, motherfucker's
Eugene is everywhere.
He's alive.
It's just like every time I hear his name, I'm like, what the fuck?
He's just alive in fucking stories. It's just a thread that connects things together. He's literally plot armor. He's the definition of plot armor. But if Eugene hadn't told Dina about the WLF, like they would have known about it. Like she wouldn't have known what it meant. Like she saw the patches, saw the WLF. But what's crazy is like in this time apocalypse, there's no Google. Like you have all this information, and without happening to fucking know about who this was already, like it would mean nothing. So they go and have a council meeting to decide if they're going to try to get revenge. And I thought it was crazy that they started that shit up looking like it was a scene from Parks and Rec. Like, they got this fucking dude out there talking about fucking, like, raising turkeys instead of chickens. Growing corn. And they're like...
Turkeys over chickens? Yeah.
They're like, Jim, sit down. We're trying to talk about killing people. He was like, I don't really give a fuck about that. I just want to talk about my crops.
It just goes to show, at any city council meeting, there's always that one guy. He's
Just
like, I gotta
bullshit.
get my shit off.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's a zombie apocalypse and half your civilization just died or not. He's got to talk to you about his farming capabilities.
His heart was in the right place, man.
I believe.
Community.
Which is crazy, too, because it's like just a huge, like we talk about, like differences from like a Walking Dead or something like that. They always had too much real shit going on to deal with, like all the like the shenanigans. And here comes Jim talking about raising turkeys. They show these fanatics briefly walking down the street with all like the mouth fucking cuts and stuff like that. And I thought it was just crazy that they're talking about protection. These niggas got hammers. Not one of you has a gun. They just walking around with fucking hammers.
Yeah, he's like, you feel safe now? The 7-year-old girl's like, yeah.
I'm strapped, bro. I'm strapped. What's her name? Ellie gets Joel's gun, which I guess is just a staple of the fucking apocalypse. If you're the fucking main lead in the zombie show, you gotta have that fucking revolver. Same as the Rick Grimes.
Yeah, the way she spun that was so. She's like, she was like trying to be so badass about it. It was fun.
Lex told me that's been dubbed the revenge blapper. Things got
I love
one.
it. Nice,
Come
like,
back with a vengeance.
What did you guys think about the like situation? Like, if you were in the council, would you vote yes to going or no? I'm gonna give y'all mine to start with. I'm saying no. Fuck that. Like, we already got one person dead. If it was a hostage, that'd be one thing, like going to get him back. But he's dead, so we're just gonna send a bunch of people back. I'm with the first person that talked. Like, what's good is sending 16 people. You might lose 3 or more of them on some revenge. Meanwhile, the town is left unguarded. Like, it seems like a bad risk reward situation. Although, I'll go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think the no makes more sense, especially for the shorter amount of time that Joel's been there. I mean, it has been like 3 years since he's been helping run shit in the town, and everybody, their whole excuse was, yeah, we definitely, Joel meant a lot to us, but at the same point, it's not like he was around for like 10, 15 years like Tommy or some of the other people.
I don't know if it even would have made a difference if it was Tommy, though. Still, like, what are we gonna go kill them for? Like, why risk the amount of people that are safe in the walls? Although
Yeah.
I did think that Seth made some good points too, with the fact of like the town doesn't know why Joel got killed, so to them they're just like, I mean, we can't just have people walking up in our house, fucking us up and leaving, like with no repercussions. We're gonna look like an easy mark every time, so they're just gonna come back and fuck us up. I do see the argument for that. I thought it was crazy. Ain't no way fucking Seth is out here mad that the 2 girls were kissing in church, talking about this is the Lord's house. Then he's gonna take the Lord's name in vain in the same in that fucking town hall meeting. I caught that. But what about
in the same building too, right? Yeah.
Was it?
He's like, this is. I think it looks like the same scenery. I don't know.
I gotcha. Yeah. What about you guys? Would you vote yes or would you vote no?
I would also vote no. Just same thing as you guys. It doesn't make sense. Like you said, if it's a hostage situation, especially one of our best guys, like, yeah, maybe we send, half of our best 16 to go retrieve him, especially if we don't think that they're that established. Like, okay, let's send some good guys in there. Let's get in, get out, get our guy, get the mission taken care of. But yeah, when you've lost as many people as they had just lost, I think if that raid doesn't happen at the same time, it's a yes. If you have all these people and they haven't just gone through this whole tragedy and then they lost their leader, yes, everybody, like, it's almost unanimous probably that they send those 16 soldiers and they go and they get their vengeance. But with that tragedy taking place at the same time, it's unfeasible. And then on top of that, like, just to comment on the homophobic feller, it was crazy, the switch up of how he was like, not in my house, and then he was also like, all right, here's everything you're gonna need to get to Seattle. Here's a horse, don't worry about anything, you have 10 minutes, get out it. Like, and I know he's on his redemption arc, but it was like, that was a fast switch up right there.
Yep. Well, I think he's just a man on principle. Like, it doesn't matter how I feel about you personally. We as a community are not some pussies. We're not getting pushed over.
Ron Swanson.
Ron Swanson.
Yeah. Very big Ron Swanson energy right there.
Lex, what about you? Are you voting yes or no?
No, I think it's a suicide mission for something you don't even know. Like, you're going off of one girl who was put unconscious during this entire situation, giving you information. I just think it's crazy. I think it's crazy to, pull resources and people from the town that needs it in this moment more than just going to potentially even seek out these people that killed Joel. It's crazy. And that you could always, if you were worried about them coming back, just use those 16 forces or people that you were going to send out to guard the wall and the places that people might try to sneak into, to keep your town safe. I don't know. I just feel like it's a suicide mission, and they should have just been like, well, we don't want to accompany you, but you guys are more than welcome to go. I think they already assumed that she was probably going to go anyways, to be honest, but yeah.
That's fair. Toph?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it is a community, it sucks to lose one of your, former council members, Joel, but like I was saying, especially after having, that huge, wave of, infected coming into the base, things like that. You see they're hard at work trying to build up their defenses, things like that. It's just bad timing. Of course, they kind of made both points in both sides. As far as a community, you always kind of want to seem strong as well too. So you can't be letting people come into your base, taking out your people. Of course, you got to worry about the infected as well as other people as well too, raiders. Everybody's like trying to live and things like that. Like I said, you just can't afford your 16 best people after losing probably half of your community. Just freeze for that. Like I said, as bad as you want to defend one of your own community members. You got to be realistic about it. You can't send 16 people because if you lose them, now you're shot and things like that. Leaves you, to open any kind of, future attacks. You never know when you might get another wave infected coming into your base, things like that. So unfortunately, I have to agree with everybody else. You just can't send them in there.
Damn, here at late entry, we're a bunch of pussies, bro. You can come fuck with us. We're not coming back at you.
I gotta do what's best for the community. Now, Ellie, she can be her own drum. She wants to do it, you could do it. That's on you. When it comes to the community, you gotta think about everybody. Tommy said that's his brother. Of course he wants to, but he's gotta do what's best for the community.
Ellie did have two good points, I would say. One about justice. There's a whole saying about without rules, what separates us from animals. But I guess the difference is justice inside your own community as opposed to going out against another one. And we don't know what the unknown is too. So you go send these people out there, and then what? We gonna fuck around and get into a war with another group, and we have no idea if we're even equipped to handle that war. She did make a good emotional, touching situation where she's talking about potlucks and shit isn't what ties the community together. It's knowing that you got my back and I got your back. So emotionally, that shit did make sense. I was kind of like, damn. But then I was like, nah, we gotta go logic over emotions. So, yeah, we're keeping everybody here. Go ahead.
She tried. She tried to pull the emotions card.
Mm-hmm. She didn't do a great job, but she tried.
Coming from the most heartless girl in the fucking... She was just a day to get emotional. And it's not even about anyone besides Joel, the one person she treated like shit the entire season thus far. Crazy.
Baseball in the apocalypse, that's pretty crazy that they're really living there. They got electricity, they got a whole functioning hospital with injections and IVs and shit, and now they even got baseball, kids playing baseball. Shout out Gail. She knows Michigan sports. She a Tigers fan. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, and I have a feeling that it's going to come up later. But it's interesting that they're building this whole arc about mercy versus revenge and what kind of person Ellie's going to be, what kind of path she's on. Is she going to be a merciful person? Is she going to be a vengeful person? Wrath. So I thought that was interesting. I feel like I can feel the foreshadowing from that of what's going to happen when she gets to Abby. She would have fucking died without Dina, bro. She'd have fucking made it nowhere. She had no horse. She was in Converse, no medical supplies. That girl had a few guns and a dream. Without Dina, she'd
Dina,
have
baby.
Fucked. Yep. I know, it's crazy.
Put those chucks in sport mode.
We were fucking the first episode talking about if we trusted Dina or not, thinking this is going to be a rom-com. Is she going to break old girl's heart or not? And here we are. She's trekking across the country with her. Although she's still on the motherfucking games. They were in that motherfucking tent. I was like, if she, go ahead.
No, that's exactly what I was gonna touch on. Is she's playing those games with her now, and it's like y'all said. It was the hopeless romantic in me hoping and then of course she has to drop at the very end. She has to drop. I wasn't that high, and it's so after all that, I'm not gay. I'm back with Jeff. All this bullshit, and then you're like, by the way, I wasn't that high. It's what do you think Ellie's fucking thinking right now? I was so hot, dude. I was
pulling those heartstrings.
She was playing with her emotions big time. Go ahead.
I feel like it makes me not trust her in a way of granted, my opinion, I haven't trusted this bitch since the beginning, but I feel I don't know, part of this all just seems so convenient and perfect. I feel like there's a part of me that wonders if she's low-key in on the plan. We don't know how she even came acquainted with this town and you know what I mean? How do we not know that she wasn't part of what's-her-name's fucking group to begin with? I don't know. I just started to get some interesting vibes from the whole thing. It just seems like she's emotionally manipulating her and kind of like, forcing herself to come with her on this trip, even though Ellie didn't ask. Now, granted, I'm sure Ellie appreciates the company, but like, she wasn't asked. I don't know. I just feel like she just seems very convenient that she's there in all of these situations with Joel, and they're in the whole situation. I don't know.
I will admit that there's a lot of holes in Dina's story and a lot of answers I want, or questions I want answered about her because of just that. How is everything falling into place? How do you have the entire pathway to where you think you're headed?
Exactly.
And how? Yeah, and I'm sure they'll probably conveniently find their way inside that barricade.
And then you saw. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
No, I didn't know if Spence wanted us to get here yet, but we saw at the very end the military brigade and us all realizing, okay, it's a lot bigger than everybody thought it was up until this point. The civilization they have there is more than I think their entire community could handle, let alone their top 16.
Real fast before we get into that, because we are going to touch on that in a second, but to your point about Dina, it does seem like she has a lot of information about like the Fireflies and the other stuff from talking to Eugene, who we still don't have the full reveal on. They're building this character up for some kind of giant shoe drop, I feel like. But
he's gonna get a whole episode, I guarantee it.
It's gonna be like her dad.
It could be fuck the teaser for the next episode. The very last scene that they showed was Dina holding a gun on Ellie.
Yep. And Ellie seemed confused, like, whoa, wait.
Damn.
No.
It just seemed like, I don't know it.
I clicked off too soon then. All right. I might be redacting everything I just said.
So
the last 3 weeks.
We'll see, because it could be. I mean, you know how the trailers go. Sometimes they'll like grab a frame and Dina's holding the gun actually behind Ellie, or whoever's behind Ellie, or some shit like that. We don't know. But either that, oh shit. I wonder if the other thing that we might see is, I wonder if Dina's gonna fucking find like Ellie's bites, and that could be why she's holding a gun on her. Something's coming, but Dina has. They showed Dina holding a gun up on Ellie at next episode, so we're gonna find out. Tofa's over here fucking laughing because he knows the answer to whatever's coming.
And he's probably like, you guys are so far off this episode, and we're not even gonna think about her.
I know. I've been trying to read his face this whole time, but he's got a good poker face.
He's doing a good job.
Hey man, y'all connecting the dots, things like that. Everybody's got a good take in this. Like I said, you'll find out soon enough.
To your point too about the big civilization, I don't know what in the world convinced them that this whole thing was going to be just a little community. That was an arrogant ass decision, and even it didn't make any sense, bro. They had fucking embroidered patches that said WLF. What kind of fucking 10 fucking people in a tent is doing some shit like that? That is an army fucking outpost. Like, you know what I mean?
One of them really likes crafting. Like crochet in their free time.
Like, I feel like from
really
looking
crafty civilization.
I feel like from looking at them, you should have known that they were like some real fucking like military fucking like cadets.
Right, they had like
the fatigues and everything.
Right, medical equipment. They had all sorts of shit. Like, yeah, I agree.
They had the fucking shit to put old girl to sleep. Like, like, you know what I mean?
That the information that she carries over is like, no, they don't seem like they could be bigger than the bunch. Like, what? It just, I don't know.
Well, supposedly that's what Eugene told her, but we'll see.
I mean, you also got to think, like, if you go back to even episode 1, look how, like, hellbent Abby was on getting her revenge. Now the roles are flip-flops, Now that, Ellie just saw, basically, her dad just died right in front of her. Now she's on her revenge path where, like, so she's, I don't care about, what the council says, no, I'm still gonna do my thing. Whether if it's me or Dina, whoever's gonna miss, she said, I don't care. I'll go with my, busted up chucks, this barely working gun. I don't care. At the end of the day, I just want to get Abby. So like I said, you kind of see, like, the whole revenge part playing. So they're kind of, like, switching sides now.
Did you guys ever...
Yeah, if Ellie were on her own, she would just be me in Last of Us Part 1. Just, like, no ammo, entering a fight I wasn't ready for without the right armor, and I would just get killed immediately.
Did you guys ever... did any of you ever watch Attack on Titan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how the whole theme for Attack on Titan, like, wound up being like the cycle of revenge. Like we hit you, so then you hit us back, and we hit you, and then it just turns into like hundreds of years of war. You know what I mean? And then just the cycle of revenge. I feel like that's kind of what they're building for with this story here. Is like the cycle, the cycle of revenge.
It's basically what Carlisle said, you know, in the meeting. You know, he was the one guy that kind of tried to put reason into, you know, what he's saying is like, you know, showing mercy and compassion. You know, you got to be a little different than, you know, the Raiders, things like that. Because I said, even in today's world, in there, you know, you can't, you know, emotional, of course, everybody has emotional attachment. You know, some of that you care about, you know, if they are wrongfully killed. Of course, you're gonna feel some kind of way about it. But if you go there, you know, tick for tack, you know, the cycle's never gonna end.
Yep.
Someone kind of has to, you know.
They've even talked about
and said cut ties with it.
They've even talked about making another Kill Bill movie where you remember the first Kill Bill, she killed the one chick and the daughter was in the room, and she was like, yeah, if you feel some type of way about this, you know, 10, 15 years from now, come find me. They've talked about making another movie where they do that. So yeah, it just feels like another one of those situations where the cycle of revenge just keeps going and going until somebody breaks that.
I feel like Tarantino would never, but
yeah, I don't know.
Tarantino would not.
The wolves attacking that fucking fanatics group, or at least they said it was wolves, that's who they were hiding from. Yeah. They killed everybody, including that girl. That's crazy. But the one thing I was thinking of, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, when Abby was talking to Joel, she said that her commander had a code. You don't ever attack anyone without a weapon or who can't defend themselves. One of the two of those. They gave that little girl a weapon. She gave her a hammer. And their ass died. I was just thinking, like, her getting that hammer might have been her death sentence, dog.
Like, she was happy to get that hammer.
She asked for this. Give the girl what she wants.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm mad as fuck at that fucking tent scene. Not just because of the whole fucking, like, little love connection that they keep fucking teasing with us. But, bro, what the fuck are y'all doing in the middle of nowhere with the fucking lantern on in the tent? That tent was glowing. That bitch was bright orange for everyone in the world to see. Y'all talked about Raiders existing. It's two of y'all, and you're like, let's fucking make a beacon for everyone out in the fucking woods to come find us. And they fucking both slept at the same time. There was no shifts. It was no like, you get your first shift and I'll stay up. It was like anyone could have walked up on those motherfuckers and found them asleep.
You ain't got to worry about no more infected coming because they all died the previous episode because there's no infected in the entire world. So you ain't got to worry about no more. You don't need to take shit.
But Raiders?
Yeah, we get an episode off. It's all good.
I was more concerned about the Raiders. Like, just anyone walking up on you.
Yeah.
That
was my concern even while they were talking and she flipped the light back on. I'm like, yeah, you can turn around and have this conversation, but don't turn the damn lantern on.
Yeah.
They don't just either. They the king. They got their revenge. They're all gone now.
You could tell that
they're back in Seattle, so they're good.
You could tell that this is.
So are you gonna watch a black screen where they're just talking the whole time? Like, you want to see them having the conversation, so they got to make it a little appealing for us, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's fucking true. You had to be able to see the fact that throughout fucking days of fucking travel, my fucking Dina still has a perfect face of makeup.
I was just thinking that too.
Yep.
I love zombie shows, right?
You can definitely tell. You can definitely tell that this was like based off of a video game instead of being like a Walking Dead TV show, because those girls were not at all worried about like survival or anything. It was just them kicked up like they were at a fucking high school slumber party.
Just at their next objective. Yeah.
Yep. I think that's all the notes that I have. You guys have anything else?
I have one thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I thought it was really interesting at the beginning of the episode how Tommy's the brother, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
How Tommy had mentioned that they bury all of their people just south of the town. And like with this virus being in the ground, is that going to affect and infect all of the dead people from the town?
You mentioned that to me. You mentioned that to me when I was watching. I think that's a really great question. Toph, you have any insight into that?
So it's not quite like, let's say like Walking Dead, for example. You get bit, you get scratched, eventually you end up turning, things like that in there. There's a lot of shows like that, how they kind of like, end up like burning, like a lot of the bodies that way, nothing can kind of like, reanimate it, things like that in there. was kind of a little bit different in terms of this compared to like Walking Dead kind of zombie. It's not quite the same and things like that. Or like, Ellie has this like, whole immunity thing in there. It's kind of what, brought the whole interrip between WLF and their group in there, because she was supposed to be the one to kind of end this whole cycle and things like that. So like I said, she's the only person, that we know of in their universe that, just has this magical cure inside her body to kind of, make the whole world right again and things like that. But it's a little bit different. They don't necessarily like transform quite like that, like they do in there. If they do transform, of course you gotta have been affected by it. You'll just kind of come like, one of them, your face will be kind of like all, I guess, funky, mushroomy and things like that in there. So it's a little bit different than like, traditional zombies would be, kind of like how they transition.
So there's no like, once you're dead, you're dead.
Well, because I was thinking about that previous scene where old girl fucking slipped down that avalanche side or the side of the mountain into all of them zombies that were under the snow.
So they were insulating. They were insulating under the like already dead infected, I guess, right? Yeah. And so does this mean we could even potentially see like a
Joel as a fucking
Joel?
That's what I'm saying. I want to see a fight with Tommy and Joel like it's fucking pounds, okay?
That'd be lit.
No, Joel's gone. He basically got his head bashed, things like that. So like I said, since it is a fungi, it takes over your brain, your psyche, and
well,
things like
okay.
That. Yeah.
Once the brain's done, the fungi can't impact it.
That makes sense.
They're technically still living. They just take over,
right.
Like your brain. So if you're just full out dead, you can't transform anymore.
Okay.
That'd be fun.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of like the difference between like zombie being a reanimated corpse.
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing like they said to fully kill a zombie. Hit him in the head, things like that. That way, there's no way to be I guess control taken over. Like I said, if you're just full dead, you don't have your brain intact. You can't transform.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. I was just gonna say the only other thing I was gonna add is good luck in Seattle, Allie.
Yeah, they got 2 of them versus a fucking militia or an army actually.
But if they come unarmed, then they won't get hurt, right?
I thought that was interesting too. Is they went with the 2 people that have both been seen by the fucking whole crew too. So you can't send anyone in to like fucking get any information or anything. It's like as soon as they spot him, like I've seen you before. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Way to get 4 episodes out real quick. We're gonna get all the meat and potatoes going forward, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's true. Any other thoughts from you guys?
I think like at least for me, I'll kind of bring it to the rest of the panel here as well too. It's kind of just like the evolution, of Ellie and things like that. In season 1, she's kind of like more in kid mode. She's kind of like kind of grown up and kind of being of course she knows that something did happen. That she kind of like was said how Joel wronged Ellie and things like that. Kind of like what the therapist kind of goes over and over. She doesn't quite know the full story. This is kind of like Ellie kind of, realizing like, yeah, what Joel did, was wrong. He made a decision for Ellie that, wasn't a decision to make, but, it is what it is, kind of in the moment, things like that. It's kind of her coming to reality with, her own, self, kind of what the position is and things like that. And of course, anybody, if you lose somebody, in your life, and the last conversation you had with them didn't end well, and you pretty much shunned this guy, since that last inning in season 1, and now that he's dead, and your last one just seeing this guy, on the floor, golf club to the head, shotgun, blew your knee off, and things like that. It's kind of like her own inner demons, things that maybe she, she's kind of like a troll character already, and it's having to deal with the fact that the person that went halfway across the world. They got to get this place to build this connection, and now that you kind of just shunned him off the side, now he's dead. I can deal with the whole emotional impact of I can never say I own peace to this guy, and the last interaction wasn't good. I can't ever have that come to Jesus, come to peace moment. It was kind of her dealing with her own inner turmoil within herself.
That actually reminds me of 2 things I was gonna say. One, she dropped a bar with Gail. She said that your last interaction doesn't make up for your whole experience you had with the person. That was a bar. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, we talked about this at the end of the last episode, when we did last week's episode for this, that we all thought that maybe Ellie already knew about what happened at the end of season 1, and that's why they weren't on good terms. I feel like this furthered that because she didn't seem at all interested in asking Gil more questions as to, like, well, what did he say? What could it have been that she seemed like she already knew, and she didn't want to have that conversation. So she's talking like a person that knows. And
Yeah, like so she would. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I think that I've been expecting like a flashback with Joel at some point in this, and I think that they're gonna show that, like them having the conversation where she finds out that that he killed them all to get her out of there.
Yeah, and of course she would know, but like at the same time, like, do you think that one decision that he made, was also for, anything that he did? It's like I said, he saved my life plenty of times, things like that. We've all probably had some risks with, homeboy, friend, he might have did you wrong, but, at the end of the day, if you were really tight like that, eventually you kind of go over, get over it, things like that. But I think in the back of Ellie's mind, she probably never expected Joel to die.
Right.
Like I said, now that it happens, now like, okay, well now I can't go back, apologize, make amends with it. It's kind of just you having to accept reality. Like I said, people can be gone just like that. And now that it kind of happened, the way that it did in front of you, dramatically, like I said, it's definitely going to hit you. Of course, that she had the scene where she was woke up from the hospital screaming, things like that. So it's kind of just all hitting Ellie, just like that in a matter of seconds. When, I know she probably did want to have, kind of sit down talk, but now you can't have that talk. It's gone from you. You lost that part. You can't get that part back. Because she has like a lot of things going on. Like I said, you kind of see like a whole evolution of Ellie, throughout out.
Yeah, that one more question too, a little bit separate from that. Do you guys think that Ellie is a bad friend for letting Dina go with her? She's not immune. She's on a mission to go try to drop some bodies against an unknown thing. Like, she had talked in season 1 about how everyone she knows always leaves her or dies. Do you think that her bringing Dina with her was irresponsible?
I think Dina brought her.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not really her decision. If Dina wants to go, she's gonna go.
Dina had the game plan.
Okay.
She would have had nothing.
Yeah.
She would have just been begging at the city council for the next 6 months.
Ellie expected just solo dolo it. I don't think she expected anybody
She wasn't
to
gonna
help her out.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Team Dina?
Still on Team Dina.
Not as strong on it, but I'm holding 2.
Nah, I don't mess with Dina.
All right, guys. That's all for us on this episode of Late Reviews. Thanks for joining us. Please leave a comment, subscribe. Let us know if you what theories you guys have moving forward. What you think we're going to see either next episode or the rest of the season. But all right, Nolan, you get to say your goodbye.
We'll just see him. Peace to everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Drop a like and sub.
All right, bye everybody. Peace.
See you.